So, everybody can kind of sing a verse if they want. So I'll just be calling out some names for some people to join us in. Okay, so Zari, you're going to be called upon. Shay, you're going to be called upon. Okay, so, the Aina family, you're going to be called upon. So just, to have your mics readily for this song. So the song selection we have today is J-O-Y. I've got J-O-Y, joy, joy in the Holy Ghost. I've got J-O-Y, joy, joy in the Holy Ghost. Don't let the devil steal your joy. Don't let the devil steal your joy. Don't let the devil steal your joy. Joy in the Holy Ghost. Sorry.
I got J-O-Y.
L-O-V, love.
Love in the Holy Ghost. I got L-O-V. Love in the Holy Ghost. Don't let the devil steal your love. Don't let the devil steal your love. Don't let the devil steal your love. Love in the Holy Ghost.
Shay.
What's the next one?
What's love? Peace.
I've got Pete. How does it go again?
P-E-A-C-E.
I have P-E-A-C-E. Peace in the Holy Ghost. I've got P-E-A-C-E. Peace in the Holy Ghost. Don't let the devil steal your peace. Don't let the devil.
I don't want your face.
Don't let the devil steal your peace. Peace in the Holy Ghost.
Ain't a family. Take it from higher, higher. Can't hear you guys. Higher, higher. Ain't a family? Your microphone's not on. Higher, higher. Higher, 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 higher. Higher, higher. Lift Jesus higher. Lower, lower, lower. Lower, 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 lower. Lower, lower. Stop Satan, lower. Super, super, super. Super, 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 super. Super, super. Supernatural power. Auntie Marlene.
Wasn't ready. I got J-O-Y, joy, joy in the Holy Ghost. I've got J-O-Y, joy, joy in the Holy Ghost. Don't let the devil steal your joy. Don't let the devil steal your joy. Don't let the devil steal your joy, joy in the Holy Ghost.
So, sorry about that. Thank you for all our participants with the song service. So at this time, we just want to give this for anybody who just wants to give a testimony or a praise report to anything that happened this week, or maybe a prayer they had with the Lord for a while. And, just to give your testimony. So if anybody has a testimony that they want to share right now.
Mine would be actually a prayer request, not really a testimony.
That's perfectly fine too.
Kenny Duncan, some of the older members of Tabernacle would know him, him and his brothers, and they used to go to our church, and his mom. Well, this past week, he passed away from COVID-19. He was pretty healthy, just had a little baby boy. So his wife and the child are taking it very hard. So I just want everybody to keep them in prayer.
Definitely will be keeping them in prayer. Thank you for muting whoever that was. Anyone else that has any testimonies or prayer requests?
Well, I have a testimony.
Okay.
I have great news. Derek had his baby this week, She came very early, but she's doing really well, and we're all really happy that she and her mom are doing okay.
Yay! Wait, so then what's the baby's name?
The baby's name is Shayla May.
Shayla May. I do like that. I do like that. Wow, lovely, lovely, lovely. Anyone else?
Grandma.
Nope, no one else? Okay, so we are going to, yeah. Okay, so now we're going to move over into our,
Well, first, let's give you a little welcome or hello, happy Sabbath, everyone. Really quick, this AY is going to be about something, we hear about all the time, but we don't really speak about it. And we are not experts, first off. We just thought we should have this conversation. So we got a couple experts online, and we have a couple few disclaimers. First off, we have a couple videos that we researched online, and we have a couple questions that we also researched online. So this is not us, but we definitely researched this information. So today we're going to be talking about depression, and especially so just a conversation. So we want everyone who has something to say or want to share experience, we definitely encourage you to share it. So first, we're going to test our knowledge, and we're going to do a little different this time. We're going to do Kahoot first, and Kahoot is going to be based on your knowledge on depression. And no right or, well, it is right or wrong answers, but you're not going to win a prize. So get ready to do Kahoot, and we're going to go ahead and share our screen right here, and we're going to go ahead and work it out. Okay, today's one of those days with share. One of those days we are having trouble with our technology. I'm gonna go ahead and go right here. Okay.
Turn on your screen.
It's coming. Is it on the screen now?
Okay.
see our screen now? Hello?
Yes, it's on the screen.
Okay.
Sorry, I couldn't find the unmute button for some reason.
Just pick one. Okay. Oh no, this is the live game.
Okay.
All right. We apologize for a little bit of delays. We are having some
Difficulties.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and press that start button.
There we go. So if everybody can go ahead and go to their Kahoot and put in the number 99444.
Shay, you are on in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, Shay, get ready. No, I called it.
Okay. Did you send her the picture?
But they're not. They said it right. No, she don't. Oh, she's reading. Yeah. Me and her are gonna go back and forth. Maybe it's up to you. I just told her.
Okay, we're just gonna wait another 10 seconds and then we will start the game. Okay, and we're starting.
Maybe they don't feel like my computer is a computer.
So the first question.
Okay, so which of these behaviors is a symptom of depression? Red, loss of interest in all things. Blue, rapid mood swings. Yellow, unexplained aggression. Green, sadness. Okay, and the answer was red, loss of interest in all things. Okay, so okay, let's see who's in the lead. Okay, Lady K is in the lead. Question number 2, depression can occur at which age? Red, 20 to 30, blue, 30 to 75, yellow, 10 to 20, green, all of the above. And the answer was green, all of the above. Three, which of these should you avoid if you're depressed? Red, a supportive relationship. Blue, exercise. Yellow, major decisions. Or green, all of the above. And the answer was yellow, major decisions. Next question, how should you respond to a depressed person? Red, be upbeat. Blue, listen. Yellow, encourage the person to spend time alone. Green, keep the person company but don't talk about the depression. And the answer was blue, listen. Let's see who's in the lead. Okay, so question number 5. A major cause of depression in women is red, increased stress. Blue, sadness. Yellow, competitiveness. Green, competitiveness. And the answer was red, increased stress.
Thanks.
Let's see who's in the lead.
Thank you.
True or false? Can Christians suffer from depression? Blue, true. Red, false. Can Christians suffer from depression? And the answer was blue, true. How do people get depression? Red, people bullying others. Blue, breakup. Yellow, parents split up. Green, all of the above. And the answer was green, all of the above. And loading ... is still in the lead. What ways can you prevent depression? Red, internalized pain. Blue, staying up late and sleeping in. Yellow, follow a healthy, nutritious diet and enough sleep. Green, do nothing. And the answer was yellow, follow a healthy, nutritious diet and enough sleep. Can you cure depression? Red, yes. Blue, no. Yellow, maybe. Green, sometimes. And the answer was blue, no. Let's see who won. Third place, Pillows Girl. Second place, 6787. And first place is Loading ... Congratulations.
Oh man, thank you, Shay, for it. Thank you, Shay. First and foremost, everybody has their different, opinions and different ideas of depression, right?
What it
Well,
is.
test your knowledge. So now this AY is technically just to have the conversation once again, but also having, having your awareness, learning about something that is taken over the US each and every day, especially during this time where we can't really socialize, or we can't go to church, or we can't do a lot of things. People are losing their jobs. People are dying, and so many different things that play factors in our feelings and our emotions and the chemical imbalancement in our brain. So really quickly, we're going to give our little personal experience with depression. You want to go first?
Right.
Go
So actually mine's happened last year, and it's crazy enough that I really didn't recognize it.
Wait, before you start, this is not a diagnosis.
No, not a diagnosis. Let's start with that.
This is, I went over the symptoms and I think I got that. I have this and I have that.
So let me just start off with that one. This is not like a diagnosed went to, didn't see anybody about this. This is
Maybe
just some things.
But she did not.
This is just some things that I do recognize now. So last year, as most of you guys know, I did quite a few colors in my hair. And I was really just talking with somebody about it, and I came to realize that the reason why so much was going on is I had a very high stress level with work, and it led me to not be quite myself. I was definitely not in the right mind with things that are going on with work. So I was using my hair as my outlet. So I'll just leave it at that it was just like literally I'll put those two together. I was just thinking, this is something I can control, so this is what I'm doing. And that's literally where I had it, left it, and I was not going to go anywhere else with it until somebody else pointed out that maybe you should have seen a professional.
I should have spoken to someone. I mean, I am a full believer in prayer, and Bible is awesome, but sometimes you need that extra help, correct?
That extra stuff.
All right, so for me, I can say I experienced a symptom of depression. I would say maybe not quite clinical depression, but I was sad for a long time, and I was more of a functional person. So I would say in 2016, when my friend committed suicide. Now you would say he had depression severely because he committed suicide, and it was something that just happened. Nobody knew, nobody understood, and from this day, we still don't really have all the answers why he committed suicide. But it really hit me. It really hit home for me. And I mean, I crying, I can be on my way to work and all of a sudden I'm just in tears and I can't drive. I have to pull over, using other things to cope with the feelings and deal with all the sadness and just, I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to work. I didn't want to go out anywhere. I was just really, really sad for a long time. And by the grace of God, that was something that I was able to get out of and move forward. Is it still hurt? Is the pain still there? Of course. But so I can say that's my experience a little bit, with depression. And as we know that, a lot of things can cause depression. So, okay, so that's about us. So today our activity is we have 3 scenarios, and each scenario is based on a different age group. And we are going to dissect this scenario. Each and every one of anybody who wants to give their feedback, we're going to read it off, and you're going to tell us the 3 questions are if the person has depression. Give me 1 second. Okay, what are some warning signs you should consider based on a scenario? What should you do, and do you think do you think they're sad or they're depressed? Okay, so and then once we kind of dissect the scenario, then we're going to have our expert give us the feedback and kind of let us know what we should look at, what we should look for, and what kind of treatments or things we can do to not prevent it or even help the person.
Okay. So just kind of explain our activity a little bit more for us, and then Shay, you can take it away. Okay, so first and foremost, we're going to have it set up as 3 groups, okay? So anybody between the age of 0 to 15, you in this activity are considered a child. Anybody between the age of 16 to the ages 16 through 55, for this activity, you are considered an adult. And anyone 56 or above, for this activity, you are considered our wiser. Our wiser.
The older adults.
Okay, so those are the 3 groups. Okay, there's going to be a scenario based on each of those at these 3 levels. However, we do want everyone to give their input. Okay, so how you're going to be answering is the kids group will answer first, then people of the adult age group will answer second, and then people of the wiser or older will answer questions, will answer and put their input in last. Okay, so those are the 3 things, just so that everybody knows. Everybody will have every group will have like a 4-minute limit. I'll be your timekeeper for that. And then at the end of it all, after we say everything that we want based off of that scenario, again, our experts will come back and just give us a little bit more knowledge in guiding us with these scenarios. Okay, so the first one is going to be our first scenario, and as she's getting us to share the screen. Sure. Okay, so then in our first scenario, there it is. Okay, and it will be based on our kids. Okay, so Sherry, and as soon as we get it up there, you can go ahead and read it.
Shay, can you see it?
Yeah, but the bottom is kind of hard to read.
Okay, don't worry about the bottom. So
okay,
it's just a little Bible scripture. You can
okay, so scenario 1 is Peter is 12 and lives at home and goes to the local middle school. When he was 9, his mom died suddenly. Now his father is always at work, and his older brothers and sisters run the household. Everyone is expected to pull their weight and be happy. However, Peter says that even though everyone thinks he is happy, sometimes he goes home, shuts the door to his bedroom, and cries on his bed for hours. He does not really know why he gets so sad, but often he feels very, very lonely. What are some warning signs you should consider? What should you do? And do you think they are sad or depressed?
All right, thank you, Shay. So first we want our younger kids
So anybody that's under the age of 15, we want you to answer this. So what are some warning signs? You know, this. Mhm, mhm. So to my kids, what are some warning signs from that scenario?
I think that some warning signs are that when he goes home, he cries in his room and he doesn't come out for hours, and it's like that's a bad thing to do, because if you feel bad for yourself, then you're just going to be bringing yourself down.
Okay,
Good job.
great job, great
Nice,
job.
Anyone else in that age group?
Yeah. Anyone else? What are some warning signs? That's a child under the age of 15. Okay, still going out to my kids. What should you do? If you were, let's say, one of the siblings, what should you do in this situation where you see your youngest sibling, Peter, every day going to their room and crying? What should you do? Again, this is for our kids to answer right now.
Okay, it can be a little difficult. Let's go ahead and see what some of our. What about this question? Do you think Peter is sad or depressed?
Kids, do you think that Peter is sad, or do you think he's okay? So now we're gonna open these questions up to our adult age group. Again, our adult age group is anywhere between 16 and 16 and 55. 16 and 55. So the first question again is, what are some warning signs you should consider? So for our adults, please remember to unmute yourself before you start speaking.
Hi, it's Michelle. I think some of the warning signs is that his mom died suddenly. He shuts his bedroom door and he cries in his bed for hours. And then he gets so sad and he feels lonely. I think all of those are signs.
Good job.
Okay.
And even though he's putting on a happy exterior, you know, he still has something going on. Because I've heard also, like with depression, sometimes people will put on the front of being happy when they're not happy inside.
This is true.
Okay.
Okay. So,
any other adults who want to just add something else that you might see as a warning sign?
The fact that the father is always at work, so he doesn't get as much attention. So I guess that's something to consider.
Okay, great one. Okay, any other adult want to add? Okay, so then we'll go to question number 2 for my adults. What should you do? Again, if you were in this situation, if you were in this situation as a sibling, what would you do if you saw this happening? Or what would you do just in general?
I think I'd go to Peter and talk to him about my concerns. Maybe talk to the father as well.
Okay.
And maybe even recommend counseling, you know, maybe with the guidance counselor at work or, at school, or maybe the father could get counseling services from a professional.
Good job.
Okay.
Thank you.
Lovely. Anyone else?
Are we answering like we're a sibling, or we're answering like we're an adult?
Either which one.
Oh, okay. I think if I was a sibling and I noticed that my brother sometimes would go into his room and close the door and be there. I mean, it says he's in there for hours. So I think I'd kind of notice that and be like, okay, what's going on? And I'd knock on the door and, you know, probably invade his privacy. I'm pretending I'm an older sister and be like, hey, what's wrong? What's going on? and just kind of try to get conversation out of him. And then I definitely tell my dad, be like, hey, I've noticed that Peter, he's been coming home sometimes and going and crying. He's in there for a very long time, and I'm concerned.
Nice. So do you think Peter is sad or depressed?
He's depressed. I think so. I think he's got a lot of emotions he doesn't know how to handle. And so this is his way of trying to cope and deal with it. Right now, it's not I don't want to say it's a negative coping mechanism, because there are some worse coping mechanisms that he could actually have, but it could develop into that. So I'd say he's got a lot of things on him right now that he needs to find a way to deal with in a positive way.
Okay. And for our last group, our seniors, again, the same 3 questions, and this is for anybody who is 56 and above. I'll start off with, what are some warning signs you should consider? Anyone?
Go ahead. I think the warning signs are going to his room and crying all the time, shutting the door for a long period of time.
Okay. And then again, the same question, what should you do in this situation?
Well, you should go into the room and try to talk to him and find out why is he crying, what's the reason for the crying. And then from there, depending on what he says, well, he may not want to say anything at first, but you have to kind of try to pull it out of him and encourage him.
Okay, and do you believe he is sad or depressed?
Well, he is very sad, but if it goes on for a long time, it could turn into depression.
Okay.
You need to speak to him daily.
Okay. So then I will let our expert, Sister Marlene, if you can take this away.
Okay, hi everyone. First of all, I want to commend the ones on Kahoot. You guys did an excellent job with your answers. Hopefully you're hearing me, right? So a couple of things, and the first child, I think that was Zaria who spoke, I'm not sure, but somebody talked about it and then they didn't come back on. So a couple of things that you said was that he is crying a lot, he's in his room, he's closing his door, he's doing this every day. Now you have to remember his mom died suddenly, okay? And that was at age 9, he's now 12, which means that this is beyond sadness. Okay, so this is depression, and it could be chronic because it's going untreated. I heard someone talk about probably getting the counselor involved at school and addressing it with the adults, and that's something that you definitely need to do. As a big sister, Sophia talked about making sure that she would go in and talk to him and try to see what's going on and, try to cheer him up. All of those things are very good. So I'm going to tell you a couple of things. In children, a lot of times, depression is misdiagnosed. And the reason being is because they could act up. So people think, oh, they're just angry or, they're just misbehaving. And a lot of times kids are depressed and we're missing it because they don't show the typical depressive symptoms. So some of the symptoms I'm going to tell you about, and I'm glad that everybody said, yes, Christians can be depressed, because that's true. And some of you might shoot me for this, but I will say in the Garden of Gethsemane, I think Jesus dealt with a little depression right there too. Okay? So some of the symptoms that you look out for when you're dealing with children, especially with depression, is irritable, anger. Sometimes they're sad. They might have hopelessness, him crying every day. It might be because he's hopeless. He doesn't know what happened. The death was sudden. Nobody talks about it. At home, it's a hush hush. Just go on as everything's fine. Smile, cheer, so he's done with all of that. He's socially withdrawn because he's not interacting with his brothers and sisters. So he's closing himself off. So that's isolation as well. You're also looking at, I need to go faster. Sorry, increase. I'm okay. Increased sensitivity. Sometimes you'll see a lack of sleep, or it might be reversed. They might be up all the time. So sometimes we tell people they're withdrawn, but sometimes they're super excited. So you have to kind of know the child to know what you're looking at. So a lot of times when you go to the doctors, I'm skipping around, but when you go to the doctor, it's important for you to go to a doctor, okay? The pediatrician will probably ask to speak to the child alone. So if you're a parent, don't get upset if the pediatrician wants to talk to the child alone. That's because they want to get from the child what's going on, if they're afraid, if anything's happening at home, things like that. And that's all important to do. They're going to ask your opinion as well, as the parent or the adult in the child's life, but it's important for them to speak to the child one-on-one as well. So if that happens, don't get alarmed or don't be annoyed. Don't think they're holding things from you. That's just a part of it. And also they're going to ask your opinion. What has changed? That's the biggest thing. What has changed? Is it that they're eating too much? Is it that they're not eating? Is it that they're not hanging out with their friends anymore? So a lot of times when they lose interest in their day-to-day things, or the grades are dropping and things like that, those are typical signs of depression as well. And you want to make sure that it's going on for a period of time. It's not like, oh, my mom died, I was sad for a week or two, or whatever the case may be. Because remember, you are going to grieve. You are going to go through the stages of grief. And grief has like 5 different stages. So it's beyond that. So this child has been dealing with this for 3 years and hasn't been addressed. So that's a couple of things that you want to definitely look at when you're talking about depression. Also, sometimes for children, they might feel guilty. So you don't know if he feels like, what if maybe I should have done this, maybe I should have done that, maybe my mom would have still been alive. So all of those are things that's probably going through his mind, and he has no one to speak to. Because he is in school and middle school, you have to remember middle school, going through the elementary middle school year, you're also dealing with puberty. Puberty also ties into your hormones. The hormones play a major role, and you have a lot of teenagers who are depressed because they're dealing with so much and they don't understand what's going on. And on top of that, their hormones are all over the place. So add all of that in, and that's why when you get to 4th, 5th, 6th grade, we're seeing an increase in suicide as well, because the kids are depressed and they don't know how to deal with it, their hormones, or anything like that. So it's very important for us to talk to them, not to brush it off as, oh, they'll be okay. And I guess the dad probably needs some counseling himself because sometimes they're not able to deal with the grief themselves or to handle it. So therefore, they're not able to help the child or help someone else. So it's important for you to reach out to someone. So the school counselor is definitely key. If they don't have a school counselor, go to the pediatrician. The pediatrician would more than likely recommend the child to see a counselor. And along with that, they may or may not prescribe medication. I know a lot of times as Adventist people, we're like, oh, no, they'll be okay. We don't have to do that. We pray about it and they'll be okay. Sometimes it's beyond that. And yes, pray while you're doing it. But I tell people all the time, God gave us different talents, different professionals, because he knew we would need those people in our lives. So it's important that you get the child help before it gets worse. What was the last thing y'all asked me for? I'm sorry, hold on. I'm trying to make sure I'm covering everything.
You cover mostly, you cover everything.
Okay. So pretty much that's it. And kids do get depressed. We're seeing it earlier and earlier, so please do not ignore it if you see anything like that. Thank you. And thank you, ladies, for putting on this AY.
Thank you. I just have a quick, to piggyback on Sister Marlene. I work with juveniles, and I see quite a bit younger, like, 12, the youngest I've seen, maybe 11, but I never really knew how much they really go through until you start really working with them, and they have tried to commit suicide 2, 3, 4 times. And you're like, what happened? You're only 12. Like, life should be like easy for them, but definitely social media has things to play in it. We asked the question about bullying. I mean, not only the people out bullying them, but they bullying themselves, not feeling worth it, or not feeling like worthy, or even be able to compare themselves to what social media say they should be. So a lot of them feel like this world would be better without me. So I definitely have seen a rise, like, all the time. Like, it's very interesting, because me personally haven't really gone through like suicidal thoughts, but you'd be surprised how many people have those thoughts each and every day, especially kids. And they, like you said, they don't really know how to channel their emotion. They don't really know what's really going on, and they just feel like that's the answer. So definitely, especially now that a lot of kids are at home, some kids may be home by themselves. Some kids may be home by themselves. We don't know, not going back to school. A lot of things can play. We don't know what's going on in the household itself. So definitely, if you notice anything, reach out to someone, say something.
Right. Now, we didn't talk about the COVID-19 and the social injustice, and I'm glad that you did bring it up with the social media, because I will tell you, as a parent with a younger child, on their little games that they play, they're exposed to different comments about social injustice, about what's going on politically. And you have to be in tune, because you have to make sure that you know what your child is hearing as well, and be able to talk to them about it, because they are dealing with a lot. Sometimes you might think it's just a game, but before they play the game, there are comments. There are grown people that's actually commenting about social injustice and different things like that as well. So it's important for you to know what they're thinking. Even if your child isn't playing those games, you need to still talk to them to see, okay, how are you processing all of this? Because I remember when we were younger, a lot of times your parents think you're not hearing what's going on, and you're hearing the conversations, you know what's happening. And the parents think, oh, they're in their room, they don't have a clue. But also, they have friends, and their friends are exposed to things as well. There's a song back when we were younger, and we used to have this little clown. I told my mom about like maybe a month or two about it, and she didn't even realize it till after. But there was this clown in our room, and he was a sad looking clown. He's standing under a light pole, and there was a song that used to play, see this funny little clown, he's laughing on the outside, but on the inside he's dying. Nobody knows he's dying. And so a lot of times I think we don't realize that kids are affected by what's going on around them. They also feed off of what's happening with adults in their lives as well. So it's very important to stay connected and stay on top of their little emotions and their feelings, and start teaching them how to express themselves, and that it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be angry. It's just how you deal with those things. Okay?
Amen. Great job. Thank you. Go ahead.
We're going to go, second scenario. So Shay.
Okay, scenario number 2. A friend calls you on the phone crying hysterically because her boyfriend just broke up with her. They have been dating since high school, and now they are in their last year of college. Lately, they have been arguing about their plans after college and whether or not they should stay together. However, her boyfriend doesn't want to have kids. It was her first serious relationship, and they did everything together. She keeps saying, "You just don't understand. You just don't understand."
Okay, thank you so much, Shay. So the first question, we're actually going to give this to our adults. So anybody between the age of 16 and 55, what are some warning signs you should consider based off of this scenario?
She's crying hysterically.
Okay. Anyone else?
Is my age group right?
Yes, your age group.
She is planning the future with a person that doesn't know what they want.
Okay. Okay. Any other signs?
Maybe the fact that she thinks that you don't understand, like she's very emphasizing that you're not understanding.
That's true.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Her and her boyfriend are arguing a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next question, and this will be for our seniors, and so that's anybody 56 and older. What should you do? If this was your granddaughter or somebody, you know, or your child or you when your younger days, what should you do?
I think the first thing is that we would have to listen to her and hear her out to give her the opportunity to express the feelings that she's having.
Okay.
Good job.
Okay, and then for the last question, we're going to give this one to our kids, so 15 and under. Do you think that this girl is sad or depressed?
Sad.
Sad? Any other kids? Sad or depressed? Okay. So now we're going to have our second expert take it away. So Sister McCullough, if you can take it away.
Well, good evening, everyone. And so we have this young lady who is very upset that her boyfriend broke up with her. It's been a long-standing relationship, so she's invested in this relationship, but things aren't working out. And so she calls a friend crying hysterically. Now, I have to tell you guys that just because somebody is sad about a breakup doesn't mean that they have depression. Okay? In fact, if that person went to see a psychologist, that diagnosis would probably be adjustment disorder. And that's a diagnosis you would give to somebody who is going through some kind of acute crisis at that time, you know? A breakup is, you know, unexpected. It's hard to handle, but she doesn't have all the symptoms that you would expect for somebody who's having depression. Also, if they just broke up, there's not time enough for her to be diagnosed with depression, because depression has to be something that is consistent for at least 2 weeks, that you're seeing some major symptoms. And crying while distressing is actually not a symptom of depression. It's just something that is a reaction to a situation that someone is going through. So
can you give us a little bit of signs for people who's transitioning between college, adulthood? What are some signs you should look for when it comes down to depression in that age group?
Okay. Well, depression in adults and older adults should be looking for these particular symptoms that I'm going to tell you. First of all, it has to be at least 2 weeks of having these symptoms pretty much every day. So that's something you're looking for, somebody who's really seriously affected to have a major depressive diagnosis. That diagnosis consists of that loss of interest that you guys talked about. You don't have interest or pleasure in doing things. Let's say you love to hang out with your friends before, now you don't really want to hang out with your friends. You love playing video games, now you don't want to play video games. You love to watch, I don't know, TV programs, now you don't want to watch TV. So you've lost the interest in the things that you loved to do before. So that's something that is considered a major sign, but it doesn't have to exist. You have to have one of two major signs. The second major sign is those feelings of feeling very down, very sad, what most people would say depressed, in the colloquial language of depression, where anytime somebody feels sad, another person will turn to that person and say, oh, you must be feeling depressed, or that person will say about themselves, I feel depressed. So that major feeling of sadness or even hopelessness that can exist. So in order for you to be diagnosed with depression, you have to have one of those two. You can have both, but you need to have at least one of those two things that I've just talked about. Now, another symptom that's a major symptom of depression is trouble with your sleep. So you have trouble either falling asleep, staying asleep, or you're sleeping too much. So you have some sleep disturbance over the course of that 2 weeks, and it's pretty much consistent, and it's happening almost every day. Another symptom that is a sign of depression is feeling tired or having little energy. Even when you wake up in the morning, you're already feeling exhausted, and you're just exhausted all the time. So that's a symptom of depression. Another symptom that's very common is having a poor appetite, or the opposite, overeating. So these are symptoms. So you want disturbance in sleep, disturbance in eating, no energy. So that's three symptoms. You can have the one that I said before about feeling very sad or the loss of interest. Technically, you only need 5 symptoms in order to have depression. I've given you 5, but there are others. So let's share some of the others that people might have. Feeling bad about yourself, feeling like you, I think Lanaka said that something about beating up yourself. So thinking that you're a failure, or that you've let yourself down, or you let your family down. So that kind of just really kind of down on yourself, that is a sign of depression. Also, a major symptom that many people experience is trouble concentrating. Doesn't matter how many times they read the page is not sinking in, or they have trouble concentrating even watching a TV program, or reading the paper, or reading a book. They just can't seem to concentrate on things. A less common symptom is the one about feeling very slowed down. It's like a patient describes it as feeling that I'm moving through molasses. So they're moving really slowly. Other people around them notice that they're moving really slowly and comment on it. So it's something that's noticeable. Or it could be the opposite. This person is just kind of really jittery and fidgety all the time and moving around a lot more than usual. So you could be one or the other. Like I said, this is not a common symptom, but it is a symptom. And then the final one is the one I really think I want to spend a little more time talking about, is having thoughts that you'd be better off dead, or thoughts of hurting yourself in some way. And I actually put up on this, I have it, if I could share my screen, I think I have it on the screen behind this. I hope I have it on the screen behind this. Yeah, here it is. I want to share with you the questions. This is something that they found that can save a life. They said, if you know someone, if you have a friend, a family member who you suspect might be thinking about hurting themselves, you want to ask these questions. Now, what happens to us as individuals, we have this preconceived idea that if we talk to somebody about suicide, we're going to push them to suicide. And actually, it's just the opposite. So you want to ask, have you wished you were dead, or wish you could go to sleep and not wake up? If they say yes, okay, that's something that's like a warning sign. Have you actually had thoughts about killing yourself? Now, notice what it says here. If the answer is yes, ask the other questions. So sometimes you might get to that question and they say, you know what? I don't really want to kill myself. I don't want to leave my family. I don't want to do this to myself. It's against my beliefs. Then that's fine. You know that person is not at risk for suicide. But if a person has gone past that and they're saying, yes, I've had thoughts of killing myself, then you ask, these are the big questions. Have you thought about how you might do it? If they say yes to that, ask, do you have any intention of acting on these thoughts? You know, as opposed to having the thoughts, but knowing you're not going to act on them. If you have intention of acting, that's a high risk. You know, or the next question, number 5, have you started to work out or have worked out the plan to kill yourself? And do you intend to carry out that plan? Again, high risk. And then here is the question you always want to ask. Have you done anything or started to do anything or prepared to do anything to end your life? For instance, are you collecting pills? Have you gotten a gun? Have you started giving away the things that are valuable to you? Have you written a suicide note? Have you held a gun but decided not to do anything about it? Have you cut yourself in a way that you think would harm yourself? Not just like a paper cut, I mean a serious cut. Have you tried to hang yourself? These things, anybody who has those symptoms, high risk, you want to have that person seek help. If that person really wants to do it, take them to the emergency room or call the suicide prevention hotline. Stay in the room with the person. Don't leave the person alone because that would give them intent to harm themselves. You know, suicide, we say, you know, we used to say, oh, an Adventist would never kill themselves. Well, it happens. And it's happening more often than we would like to acknowledge. And so those are symptoms of depression. And you have different levels of depression. People can have a mild level of depression where they only have 5 symptoms. But the more symptoms they have and the more the symptoms interfere with their ability to function, then that's when you see a need for a higher degree of diagnosis. So they have like a major depression that is severe. That person really needs help. And the thing is, prayer, I think prayer is wonderful. I think we should always pray. But I think that God made us wise enough to know when we have to seek help. Just like we don't just pray if we have a broken bone, let's not pray if a person is suffering emotionally. And I'm free to answer questions if anybody has questions, because I think that that would be better for me to answer questions that people might have. Oh, I should also tell you guys one more thing. Just because there's a part called major depression doesn't mean that's the only kind of depressive symptom a person can have. You can have something that's called persistent depression, where it's just kind of that feeling of sadness that's just kind of pervasive in your life all the time. You just don't kind of come out of it, but it has to last a couple of years. You're just kind of this gloomy person. That's a lower grade of depression. You're not as risk as much as somebody who's in a more severe range, but it's something still that can be treated, and you can feel better once you get treatment for that. And as the other thing I want to mention about depression is medication. Often people will say, I don't want to take any medication. If you have something that's moderate to high in terms of intensity, taking medication can make such a difference in your life. It could even save it. So just don't discount the fact that, you know, you take medication for blood pressure, you take medication for diabetes. If you have to take depression medication, it may not be forever, it may just be for a while. It's worth doing to bring you back to a normal state that you can function effectively. So I'm open for questions.
Okay, before those questions though, we're gonna do the third scenario.
You can also follow with that one.
So that if anybody has any questions, they can kind of give it to both. Okay, so if stop sharing your screen.
Dr. O'Connor, please.
Yeah, I was trying to not share. I think I'm not sharing anymore, but I can't tell.
we can
They're still sharing.
Mine says resume share, so I am no longer sharing. Oh, now I see stop share. There it is.
Okay, no problem. No
Now I
problem.
get back to seeing everybody.
Okay, so I am going to ask that if you have any questions, just to write it down for now. We really do want to get to those questions. But before that, we just want to continue with the flow with this last scenario. It'll be a quick one, and then we'll go straight to these questions, okay? So, Shay, take it away.
Scenario number 3. Mr. Smith is a 75-year-old divorced man. He's in a rehabilitation center recovering from a broken hip. He has a large family who supports him, but feels guilty that this latest setback will be a burden on them. He also worries that his hip and other health issues will make future years miserable. He mentions wanting to hurt himself several times. Mr. Smith indicates that he frequently thinks of dying and has for a while, but he has no current plan to carry out a suicide.
Okay, so the first question we're gonna bring out to our, just anyone.
Yeah.
So, what are some warning signs you should consider in this scenario? So, any age group can answer.
That he wants to hurt himself.
Okay. Anyone else?
Frequent thoughts of dying.
Okay. Any
He
others?
feels guilty.
Mm-hmm. Any others?
He's alone.
Okay. What should you do if you were a nurse or you knew Mr. Smith, whatever it was, you just had a random conversation with him, you were in the room next door to him, you shared the room with him, what would you do? Again, anyone can answer this.
Talk to him. Let him talk to you, and you be a listening. Let he can listen to him.
Good job.
Anyone else?
He has a large family who supports him. So I think if you're hearing, I don't know if he shared these thoughts with his family, but I would definitely involve the family and let them know that he's, how he's feeling, and, encourage them to let him know how they feel, so that, maybe they will help to alleviate some of his, I feel like a burden, and I feel, guilty, I feel like it's going to be harder for my family now. But, maybe having the family be able to come in and let them know how much they love him and care about him, and how that isn't a burden for them and they want him around for longer, it may help.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, so then the last question, do you think he is sad or depressed? Kids, adults, anybody can answer this. Do you think he is sad or depressed?
I don't know how long he's been feeling this way. It seems like it just happened because he broke his hip. So maybe he's not quite depressed yet, but he's definitely sad and concerned.
Okay. Okay. What you think? Sad or depressed?
Based on my experience, I think he's like on the borderline of depression, because he is having, suicidal thoughts. However, he has no plan. And I have worked in the ALF before. ALF is the assisted living facility, and you'd be surprised, a lot of older people who are there, they tend to be depressed because nobody comes visit them. I mean, they're older, their body's not working the same way. They don't want to be a burden on their family, so they have a lot of, internal hurt and pain, and they don't want to express it. So I think maybe he's depressed.
I'm gonna go with the expert on that one.
I ain't an expert now.
I'm gonna go with the semi-expert who's trying to be an expert.
You see a Dr. McConnell here and Sister Marlene?
I'm gonna go to the expert that's leading up to the true expert.
Okay, so our experts, go ahead and take it away, because obviously
Lanaka, you're doing great. Because I was just jotting down, you have to remember with aging, they're going through certain process. They're looking back on life. There is a sense of depression, like, did I fulfill my life? Am I going to be a burden to my family? What does this mean for the rest of my life? I don't want to be dependent on people. So elderly, a lot of times we miss the depression that they show because we think, oh, they're just sick, they're being miserable, whatever the case is. And that's not the point. I think one of the key things in the scenario was saying that he did think about harming himself. So he does need some professional help. They do need to tie in the family and probably whoever's at the facility, if they have a professional mental health person, which they should, then yes, they need to have that for him.
Yes, so he does have he probably has the loss of interest in doing things. He does feel down. He is probably feeling that exhaustion, with he's knowing what happened to him. He's with his hip broken. He's probably not sleeping well. So he's got all these things. And then on top of that, we have feeling bad about, that he's being a burden. So that's added now to that. And then we have the suicidal ideation, the suicidal thoughts that he's having. So he meets the criteria if this has been going on for a couple of weeks. So this is somebody that we would definitely be keeping an eye on, somebody that we would be talking to. And the thing is, with elderly people, they have this issue about not wanting to be a burden. That's like a big deal. And they don't want to be a burden to their children or to their grandchildren. But it's so important for them to maintain their connections. They talk about having a big family that's supportive. So that family is supportive, but in what way are they supportive? Are they visiting? Are they calling? Now in this case of COVID-19, maybe he can't see his family. So even though they're calling him, that's not enough support for him. So that's something, it may be that you want to get him a phone where he can actually see them, instead of just talking to them on the phone. Sometimes they say that, especially now with COVID-19, being able to see a loved one is so much more impactful than just hearing their voice. So you want to have him see someone. And there are people in these facilities who are supposed to be keeping an eye on these, of course. Everybody is busy, and sometimes people slip through the cracks if they're not a squeaky wheel. So I think if you know somebody who's in a home, that you should be checking on that person, that you should be contacting that person and keeping a gauge on how they're doing, that you can be that warning for the family or for the facility or whoever. If you're like, something is going on, as psychologists, if I'm seeing him in a professional manner, I can't just call people and just tell people what he's doing. But you have none of those limitations. You can do whatever you want. And so I think it's important for you to speak up if you are in that scenario.
Most definitely.
I'm glad that.
Questions. Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. No, I was just going to say, I'm glad Dr. McCullough said that, because the age difference does make, it makes a world of difference, because there are HIPAA laws, whereas with the children, you could kind of reach out more to, family members and different ones to get involved. Before you go to the questions, really quick, the last scenario that you have with the young lady, I wanted to just say it's important for people to start looking at healthy relationships, because it sounds like she wasn't in a healthy relationship. And I think that's something that maybe another AY or something y'all could start addressing. And for the little ones, the first case scenario with the little one, a lot of times when there's family history of depression and different things like that, it does affect the little ones as well. So we need to remember the family history if there was depression. I know a lot of people don't like talking about that, but it's important to know the mental health as well as the physical health of the family. And also sometimes the behaviors are underlining for something else as well. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, and Marlene, you talked about with the little kid, seeing a little kid crying, that's actually kind of not the usual. Usually you see the kid getting in lots of fights in school, lots of acting out. That's more a symptom of depression that you are more likely to see we keep thinking that we're going to see sadness, but you do not see sadness in that child.
Yep, you're absolutely right. And that's the masked depression that they talk about with kids, because it doesn't look like your typical depression. Okay.
Renata have a question?
The question was,
Sorry.
well, she's looking for the question. What are some, I guess, treatments or things that, I think you said it a little bit, for older people that you can kind of implement so we can prevent or reduce the chances of depression?
I'm going to suggest something that I don't know if this is happening in the church, but I think that every elderly person that you know should have contact with a younger person who is like a surrogate grandchild or a surrogate child, not necessarily a member of the family, somebody who can be a little bit more objective, who they can talk to and they can say how they're feeling without feeling like they're burdening their family. So
that's a great one. Great.
So that's something I think we could set up. And you just have somebody you can talk to, and that you just tell the person, you can tell me anything. Yeah, they can tell you anything. And that way you may be able to be the one who can say, okay, this is something you need to address. You need to talk to somebody about this. This is not how you should be feeling. They may be more willing to listen to you rather than it coming from their children or coming from their grandchildren, because again, not wanting to be burdened.
And that's so true, because I was looking at today with Hoda, I think it's today, right? But anyway, they started a similar group that what Dr. McCullough is talking about, where they have college students who during the COVID decided to create this network where they're reaching out to older people. So now it's like a generation, they call it big mini or something. So it's an older person with a college student, and they get to talk, they get to see each other and things like that on Zoom. And they are planning to link up a couple of them. But, I think that is ideal, especially during this time.
Are we still asking questions?
Go for it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. All right. So during this COVID situation, there are those who have mental health. I mean, I know we're talking specifically about depression, but it may be depression, it may be some ideations, it may be other things that they're kind of dealing with on the mental health spectrum. And maybe they've been getting services, or they've been, maybe they have diagnoses and all these different things. But with COVID, they're not able to go to their regular type, appointments, or maybe there's coping mechanisms they've had that they no longer can do, whether it's working out, exercise, or something like that. Is there any place now that, I don't know if they do video calls or something like that, some sort of resource that we could maybe know where to be able to send someone who needs it? I know my husband and I personally have had phone calls from people that they're going through, and they just need somebody to talk to. We're not professionals. So I was like, honey, we really need to find some place to send them so that they can get the help that they need. And also for someone who's professional, who will hear whatever they need to hear, that may know there needs to be some other intervention.
So I'm going to jump in and then
jump in really quick.
I
know one website called BetterHelp.com. They actually have online therapists. Now I don't know if they take insurance or not, but I definitely know they're providing that service for people who are dealing with COVID, and who doesn't have a really high income, or income was impacted. They actually have services for them as well. But go ahead, Sister Martha.
Better Help or Better Health?
BetterHelp.com.
Okay.
I'll
put it in the link. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Most therapists are providing services via teleconferencing. So I see a whole bunch of people. I see more people teleconferencing than anything else. So, and I think most people are doing that now. So it's actually much easier for you to see somebody than it used to be, because if you live, far away, you have to worry about traffic and parking, and you don't have to do any of that anymore. You can be in your pajamas and you can have therapy. So it's something that is actually been, I think, a blessing that has come out of this whole thing. The more the availability of treatment that requires less effort on the part of the person who's seeking treatment.
So,
Okay.
Sophia, I saw your question in the chat, so I put a couple of things in the chat already. And if you call those numbers and let them know what you're looking for and what it is the person needs help with, they could connect you as well. Okay?
And I have one more question for you ladies. So I know someone else who is diagnosed depression and a few other diagnoses, and their behavior is starting to make me a little worried. Not anything about suicidal thoughts, but all of a sudden erratic changes, like suddenly they move, or suddenly they, like they're stopping doing things and then they're starting something else. And I'm just like, I'm like, okay, but it doesn't seem to really have a plan. I almost feel like they're moving away from people who can be a support for them. And I think that's the thing that's making me a little concerned.
So you're absolutely right to be concerned. Unfortunately, because of this COVID-19 and isolation and everything else, we're not connecting as much. People who have already had a diagnosis or problems with any mental health issue, it's going to be heightened. Suicide is increasing. Domestic violence is increasing, child abuse is increasing. So those are things that usually happens when we're going through crisis, and this is going to be a drawn out crisis. So you have every right to be concerned, and I'm going to let Dr. McCullough probably give you some pointers as to what specifics you could probably do for that person. But yeah, you're absolutely right.
Okay, so if you know somebody who's having difficulty, the first thing to do is to try to talk to the person, to try to see if you can get a little bit more information, because sometimes an action may be done for a reason that you're not aware, and you're thinking that it's a danger sign, and actually it's something that's not dangerous. It's maybe adaptive. So you want to get more information, first of all. Secondly, you want to talk to the person about how they're coping. What are the coping mechanisms that they have in place? For somebody who's feeling sad, we always recommend two things: get sleep, get exercise. Just 30 minutes a day, even walking can improve a person's mood. So that's something that you don't need to have a prescription for. You don't need a therapist for that. You just need to be outside in some sunlight and walk, and walk in the evenings or walk in the morning. Don't walk in the middle of the day, because heat stroke is something that you don't need to be put in the hospital for unnecessarily. You see? So that's something really important. Try to get sleep. I have so many people who come to me about sleep and how they're having trouble sleeping. It's not that hard to set something up for a person. So if they're having trouble sleeping, there are tips online through the Mayo Clinic. They have some great tips, the 7 tips to improve your sleep, that you can follow to help you with that. Because the thing is, we're in a stressful time. We're feeling overwhelmed. And when you're feeling overwhelmed, your resources are stretched. You're not coping well. So you need to build up your resources. You need to be eating properly. People tell me just like yesterday, well, I'm only eating 1 meal a day, or I'm eating all the time. Both of those things are not good. So there are things that we can do following New Start, nutrition, exercise, drinking water, getting sleep, getting sunlight in the fresh air, getting rest, relaxation. Enjoy your life. If you're doing something in your life that you enjoy, it makes that day brighter. And often people who feel a lot of negative emotions have no joy. So one thing that I recommend to my clients is to do one thing that they enjoy, whether it is reading a book, whether it's hanging out with their spouse, if they like their spouse. Not everybody does. Or playing with the kids. It doesn't have to be anything that costs money. It just has to be something that you like. One person said to me, I started making masks. I like that because I like sewing, and I give the mask away to people who need it, like older people who may have somebody coming to visit them and they need to be protected, or people who may not have the money to buy masks. And I feel like I'm doing something I enjoy, and I'm also making a service. So when you do something for others, you feel better as well. So that's one other thing to consider. Doing something for someone else, volunteering at the shelter where they're giving away, at the food pantry where they're giving away food. You're feeling bad. You start giving people food. By the end of the day, you feel better.
Yes.
So these are all things that don't cost you money. Everybody thinks you have to spend money to feel better. We don't. Sleep, exercise, all those things we talked about, and doing something for others, enjoying things, doing something you love. Like I love walking with my husband. So we walk together, and it's our time to chat. It's our time to catch up with things. It's so much fun. I spend more time with him during COVID than I've ever spent. We've been married 38 years.
And I just want the panelists, I just want everyone to know it's okay during this time to be sad and to feel a little down, because we're all going through it. I know with all the social injustice, for me personally, it was becoming overwhelming. And I had to take a step back because I'm like, okay, I need to be okay so I could help other people. But we are all human, and we all have to do that mental check where we're like, okay, maybe I need to tune out for a little bit. Maybe I need to do something else. I need to find some enjoyment. For me, it's dancing. Hey, you put on some music, I'm good to go. So like Dr. McCullough said, whatever it is, you need to find that joy, that something that you know will give you that kind of happiness. And we have to look out for each other, because trust me, a lot of people are dealing with different things. They might not be willing to say it, but we have to let people know it's okay. We have to be there for each other.
So I just have a quick question. I just want to be like, so where do my counselors go when they need counseling? I got friends, right? And right.
Many therapists have therapists. You know that.
Yeah. You know the saying about nurses and doctors, right? Well, take that and put it to mental health. Same thing. Worse patients. But we do need it, because we're taking on the world, so we do need it.
We just need to add something.
Just so you know, Dr. McCullough is available. She has her clinic, so I'm just saying.
We all need therapy.
Everybody needs therapy. So that being said, it's just going to be I'll say that at the end. We're going to let Max.
Wait, no, let's go ahead and say about
yeah. So I was going to leave that. Okay, so what we were saying, other things that you can do, finding something that you love to do. So painting has been something that I have definitely
beautiful
COVID time. So this has been,
I'm over here trying new things. This is cauliflower chicken wings.
They're good though. They're good. So yes, definitely picking up some new skills, in this COVID time period. So
learning a new hobby is a great way to do things. Learn something new.
This is a great hobby, by the way. Great. This is a fun hobby.
I love that picture.
Thank you.
But he didn't finish it.
This one was my favorite though.
Yes, I love that one. We might have to have an art show and
coming up soon. Okay, so honestly, I do want to just really, really say thank you to both Marlene and Dr. McCullough for all your, and Sister Marlene and Dr. McCullough for all your input that you've given us, and just for everybody for being a part and giving your own input, sharing your experience and experience of others around you. Everyone, good job, good everyone. And right now we just want to give the time over to Max to do our best for thought.
If you have any more questions, you can always ask Sister Marlene, Dr. McCullough. You can put it in the group message, Facebook. Yeah, that's it. Go ahead, Max.
All right, good evening and soon to be almost done Sabbath to everyone. Thank you for having me to do your Vespers. Enjoyed the program and being able to have that space to talk about an issue that is very real, that is very prevalent and relevant, and that needs our attention. And that's pretty much my main thought for the Vespers. Um, During childhood, I was often told that the only thing I had to worry about was school. That as a child, I was too young to have stress. But the reality was that as I was experiencing alarming levels of stress and trauma, as I took in everything that was happening around me at home, in my neighborhood, in the country I grew up in, I was taking everything in that was causing me alarming levels of stress and trauma. And the thing was, as a child, I didn't have the tools or the space to process those things and to talk about them. Anytime I would try to express an issue, I was generally told that it wasn't my responsibility to worry about. Just go do your homework. As an adult now, I still have stress, some of which have carried over from those childhood days, in large part because I didn't have that space and the value wasn't given to me to express the things that I was going through. So even though I have more tools now, the space to process and express those stress is still very hard to find. As an adult, there were just too many responsibilities, too many things that need to be done, too much of a past to try to correct, too much of a present to try to regulate, and too much of a future to try and prepare for. In simpler words, as an adult, sometimes we're just too busy to even worry about the things that we are going through. And I'm not yet an older person, so I'm not quite sure how stress will translate for me when I get there. What I do know, however, for certain, is that stress is no respecter of persons. Depression does not discriminate, and things like anxiety is not racist. The point is that everyone of every age is dealing with stress, and that stress has the ability to cause depression and anxiety. And no matter what age or stage in life someone is, they need the tools, but more importantly, the space to acknowledge that stress is taking a toll on them. Children lack the real ability to express their issues to words, generally speaking. Adults, we are often more grown children who never truly learn how to communicate our issues, even though we have more words now. And the elderly, which is a group that often struggles with a lot of loneliness, as was previously mentioned, and they are often neglected. For example, did you realize that we're even sometimes hesitant to say the word depression? That saying the word sometimes causes people to recoil and lean back and get a little tight and tense. That word, that topic should be as open for us to express as words and topics like cancer, flu, COVID-19, sprained ankle, etc. Because when a child has a scraped knee, we don't tell them that the scraped knee doesn't matter and turn them away. When an adult suffers from cancer, we don't tell them that it's of no importance. When an elderly person begins to show the signs of weakness that comes with old age, we tend to them just as we tend to the adult with cancer and to the child with the scraped knee. So we ought to tend to each other and ourselves when we are dealing with the things that are more mental and psychological and emotional. No one, whether child, adult, or elderly, should have their stress, depression, anxiety devalued. Doing so to someone actually does them more harm than good, especially for children. That space is necessary because it validates the experiences and issues and teaches them that their voice has value and that has the ability to carry on into adulthood. Now, I just want to open a quick parenthesis here because that wasn't in my script, but I noticed something as the program went on, is that there were barely any men talking, answering questions. And that is another population, another group of people that tend to be very silent about our issues, about our problems, and the things that we go through often go unnoticed, often go very unnoticed. So as we think about the ages, we also want to think about the type of people, like men, women. We also want to think about that as well. So in conclusion, my prayer is that we will allow each other the space to be able to confess our weaknesses to one another so that we can pray for, support, and listen to each other so that we may be healed. Because the prayer and support of a righteous person towards his fellow man and woman is powerful and effective. Amen.
Thank you so much, Max. If you don't mind doing a closing prayer for us, Max.
After we finish speaking, let's do announcements and stuff.
Okay. So,
before you do that, next week, well, thank you, Maxwell, first of all. I don't know, you said that already, right?
I did.
My bad, but thank you again and again and again and again. Next week, we also will have, we will have AY, it will be Health Ministry, Dr. McCullough.
The other Dr. McCullough.
Other Dr. McCullough. She's nice. Other Dr. McCullough.
Who will be posting at AY. So definitely, hi, Dr. McCullough.
There you go.
So definitely come tune in 6 o'clock, same time.
Same place.
Same place. Oh, here, you're muted.
You're muted.
5:30.
5:30.
Oh, 5:30.
5:30. So tune in 5:30.
5:30.
You actually started your health workshop earlier, so this week and next week, because mental health is a part of it.
Oh, there you go.
True. And then
on the 5th,
we have 5 Sabbaths this month. We decided that the 5th Sabbath will
which is the 29th,
will be a bit of a different AY. And because of, I'm just going to quickly go through all the lovely art pieces that have been done lately. If you can see from the thing, oh, this one's pretty. This one. But clearly, if you can see what's been going on lately, is going to be AY. And because of, I'm just going to go through art therapy.
by people who are not artists.
By no means. We are still amateurs in this. Okay? So we will definitely let that information get out to find out where you can get your canvas, your paint, and your brushes for the 5th Sabbath, which will be an art Sabbath. So definitely our AY. Our AY. So definitely.
And most of these things we got from the dollar store for like $1.
Yeah, we'll give you that information. Okay. So yeah.
But to sum up everything, depression is real. It's something. Oh, did it? Okay, yes, depression is actually real. And if you know someone or if you're even going through it, make sure you reach out to someone, talk to someone. We have many resources in the church. We have Sister Marlene and Dr. McCullough has also provided a lot of resources. Please check up on your older people, even the younger kids, the middle, older kids, adults. check on everyone. And Dr. McCullough actually gave us a great idea about older people and start like a surrogate grandmother, grandchild. I mean, I think I love it. So senior ministry, you know, if you're on here, go ahead and connect with Janelle, and we can maybe start that up coming up in the next couple of weeks or something like that. Until then, make sure you check on. Go for it.
Senior ministry at church that has a listing of all the elderly people.
They should, right?
I believe they do. So,
or the deaconesses might know that.
No, senior ministry actually gave it to the first elders, so all of them have it.
Okay.
And so that's definitely something that we need to go ahead and
right. So this last screen that you can see right now is definitely for all the different resources, especially for those who were not on our Zoom or Ring Central, so that you can just take a picture, take a snapshot of this screen, so that you have all these different resources that you can go to in order to help yourself, a family member, a friend, a stranger that, you know, may be having any of these symptoms or struggles or about to get into depression. So if nothing else, Max, if you'll just pray for us to close.
Do anyone else have anything to say? Any announcements? Oh, okay. Go for it, Maxwell.
All right, let us pray. Dear God, we want to give you praise, we want to give you thanks for the opportunity to share this time with you, but also with each other. We thank you for everyone that was here. We thank you for every family that is being represented. I pray that you will bless each one and keep them and guide them through this process, through this time, and just allow them, Lord, to continue to remain in you, but also remain with each other. Lord, I believe that we recognize even more now the necessity for community. And even as we talk about this topic of depression, how much community plays into preventing or healing or helping through the process of coping and overcoming depression. So I pray, God, that we will not distance ourselves from each other from a necessarily social standpoint, God, but that we would continue to remain as close as we can, especially throughout this time. And God, especially one day when we get to return with one another, that we will re-strengthen those bonds and be able to have this space where we can confess our weaknesses to each other, so that, Father God, we can be able to support one another. Lord, depression is not a 2020 thing. It's been here for years. It was in the Bible. Many great men and women in the Bible suffered from it. So we know that you care about it. If you want us to talk about it, please allow us not to make it something that's taboo that we can't talk about, but please help us to bring it out to the light so that we are able to deal with it as it ought to be. Thank you so much. Please be with us for this upcoming week. We love you. We thank you. In Jesus' name I do pray. Amen.
Again, thank you everyone for participating, for just being a part, for sharing, for the resources, Dr. McCullough and Sister Marlene, and Max, just for everything, for everybody just being a part. And I really do pray that we will all just definitely reconnect a little bit more with each other, just to be that extra checkup. Because, you know, that extra checkup is that free counseling. So
that was ready.
But everybody definitely have a great week.
Wednesday night prayer meeting at 7:30. Sabbath school for all age groups on Saturday. Look on the website.
The grow groups.
It's so much. Go ahead,
check the website www.tabsda.org and find out all the information that you need.
Yes. You guys have a
See you next week at 5:30. Bye-bye.